In the heart of South America, a nation rose from chains of empire to claim its destiny. This is the story of Venezuela, how a people, fueled by courage and an unquenchable thirst for freedom, shattered 3 centuries of Spanish rule. It is a tale of fire, betrayal, exile, and ultimate triumph. Welcome to the birth of a republic. For more than 300 years, Venezuela existed as a colony of the mighty Spanish Empire.
Organized as the Captaincy General of Venezuela in 1777, it was a prized outpost of imperial wealth. When Christopher Columbus first reached its shores in 1498, he was struck by indigenous villages built on stilts above the water and named the region Little Venice, Venezuela. Over centuries, gold, cacao, indigo, coffee, and cattle flowed across the Atlantic to Madrid. Yet prosperity did not mean equality.
Political power rested firmly in the hands of peninsulares, Spaniards born in Europe and appointed by the crown. Creoles, the American-born descendants of Spanish settlers, were wealthy and educated, but denied the highest offices. Beneath them were mestizos, indigenous communities, enslaved Africans, and free people of color who bore the crushing weight of taxes and forced labor. Resentment simmered quietly. By the late 1700s, ideas began crossing oceans faster than ships.
The Enlightenment spoke of natural rights and the sovereignty of the people. The example of the United States proved colonies could defeat an empire. The radical ideals unleashed by the French Revolution electrified intellectual circles in Caracas. Whispers of liberty grew louder. The Creole elites listened and waited. Then the world turned upside down. In 1808, Napoleon Bonaparte invaded Spain, forced King Ferdinand VII to abdicate, and placed his own brother on the Spanish throne. The legitimacy of Spanish rule collapsed overnight. Across Latin America, colonies faced a fateful question. If the king was gone, who held authority? Loyalty to a captive monarch or loyalty to themselves? In Caracas, the moment had arrived. On April 19, 1810, amid public unrest and political maneuvering, local leaders deposed the Spanish governor and formed the Supreme Junta of Caracas. Though they claimed to govern in Ferdinand's name, it was a decisive break from imperial control.
Provinces across Venezuela joined the movement. Into this rising tide returned a seasoned revolutionary, Francisco de Miranda. A veteran of both the American and French revolutions, Miranda had long dreamed of an independent Spanish America. Now, at last, the flame he had carried for decades began to blaze. On July 5, 1811, representatives of 7 provinces gathered in Caracas.
With bold conviction, they signed the Venezuelan Declaration of Independence, the first absolute declaration of independence in South America. The act proclaimed to the world that the United Provinces were free, sovereign, and independent states. The first Republic of Venezuela was born in thunderous applause. 300 years of calm, one delegate declared. Isn't it enough? But empires do not surrender quietly. In 1812, catastrophe struck. A massive earthquake devastated Caracas and other patriot strongholds. Royalist clergy proclaimed it divine punishment for rebellion. Fear spread. Meanwhile, fierce llanero horsemen, plains cowboys loyal to Spain, ravaged patriot forces. Facing chaos and civil war, Miranda negotiated a surrender to spare civilian lives. For this, he was betrayed by fellow patriots and handed over to Spanish authorities. Imprisoned in Cadiz, he died in chains. The First Republic collapsed. Among those who escaped was a fiery young officer named Simón Bolívar. He fled to neighboring New Granada, but swore vengeance. "We must conquer," he insisted, "or die." In 1813, Bolívar launched the legendary Admirable Campaign. With a small, determined army, he marched over 2,000 kilometers through mountains and valleys, liberating city after city. His decree of war to the death promised mercy to Americans, but none to Spaniards who resisted independence. It was brutal and effective. On August 6, 1813, Bolívar entered Caracas to ecstatic crowds. The people bestowed upon him a title that would echo through history, El Libertador, the Liberator. The Second Republic was born. Yet again, freedom proved fragile. Royalist forces regrouped under ruthless commanders. By 1814, the patriots were overwhelmed. Bolívar fled into exile once more, this time to Jamaica. There, in September 1815, he penned his prophetic Letter from Jamaica. In it, he analyzed the revolution's failures and envisioned a united continent. "The bonds that united us to Spain have been severed," he wrote. "A people that loves freedom will in the end be free." Hope came from an unexpected ally. In 1816, Bolívar received crucial support from Haitian President Alexandre Pétion, who demanded one condition: emancipation for the enslaved. Bolívar agreed. Returning to Venezuela, he issued a decree freeing any enslaved person who joined the patriot cause. The struggle transformed into a broader social revolution. Thousands enlisted. The fight was no longer only for Creole power, it was for liberty itself. The decisive turning point came in 1819. In one of history's most daring military maneuvers, Bolívar led 2,500 men across flooded plains during the rainy season and over the freezing peaks of the Andes. Starving, barefoot, and exhausted, they surprised Spanish forces in New Granada. On August 7, 1819, at the Battle of Boyacá, they secured a stunning victory. Soon after, the Republic of Gran Colombia was proclaimed, uniting Venezuela, New Granada, and Ecuador under Bolívar's leadership. But Venezuela still had to be secured. On June 24, 1821, Patriot and Royalist armies clashed on the plains of Carabobo. Bolívar commanded roughly 6,500 men against 4,000 Spanish troops. His strategy split the battlefield, sending General José Antonio Páez and his fierce Llanero cavalry, alongside the volunteer British Legion, crashing into the enemy's flank. The assault shattered Spanish lines. Within hours, the Royalist army was routed. "Victory belongs to the brave soldiers of Carabobo," Bolívar proclaimed. Though fighting lingered, the final Spanish stronghold at Puerto Cabello fell in 1823. After 13 grueling years, Venezuela was truly free. The cost was staggering. Proportionally, Venezuela suffered more deaths than any other region in Latin America's wars of independence. Entire towns were destroyed. Families were torn apart, yet a sovereign nation had emerged. Bolívar pressed southward, liberating Peru and inspiring the creation of Bolivia. But his dream of a unified Gran Colombia fractured amid regional rivalries. In 1830, the Union dissolved, and Bolívar, disillusioned and ill, died that same year. "I have plowed the sea," he lamented. Yet history would remember him as one of the greatest liberators of all time. Today, every July 5th, Venezuela commemorates its declaration of independence. The juntas, the shattered republics, the desperate marches through jungle and snow, and the thunder of Carabobo live on in national memory. They remember a people who refused to live on their knees. From colonial outpost to sovereign republic, Venezuela's birth was forged in sacrifice and unyielding resolve. As Bolivar believed, the destiny of America changed the day its chains were broken. And from that crucible of revolution, Venezuela rose, scarred, proud, and forever free.